Okay, so Kaspar, the bellboy who works in the hotel, has been taking him for a walk each day, and they've started to bond and be friends with each other. So let's see what happens next. They're in the walk in the park at the moment. It was on a bench in the park one day, perhaps 6 weeks or so later, that Kaspar first showed me any real affection. He was sitting up on the park bench beside me, basking in the sunshine, when, without even thinking about it, I found myself stroking his head. He looked up at me to let me know that it was all fine by him, and then he smiled. I promise you, he smiled. I felt his head pushing into my hand and the purr coming over him. His tail was trembling with pleasure. I know it sounds silly, but at that moment I felt so happy that I was almost purring myself. I looked into his eyes, and for the first time I could tell that he liked me, that at last he thought of me as a friend. I felt honoured. The next morning I met the Countess hurrying through the lobby. "Ah, Johnny Trot," she said as I opened the front door to her. "I am late for rehearsals. All of my life I am late. You will walk with me. I have an important thing I must say to you." It was raining, so I held the umbrella for her as we crossed the stand and walked up into Covent Garden, past the barrel organ with the monkey turn handle, and the blind soldier playing his accordion by the fruit stalls. She stopped to pat the Coleman's horse, who was standing between the shafts of his cart, hanging his head in the rain and looking thoroughly miserable and soaked through. The Countess berated the Coleman soundly when he came out of the pub, and told him in no uncertain terms that he should put a blanket on the horse in such weather, that in Russia they treated horses properly. The Coleman was speechless, too stunned and shamefaced to argue. We walked on. "I have so much to thank you for, Johnny Trot. Prince Kaspar is a very happy cat, happy to be in London. And when Kaspar is happy, I am happy. I sing better when I know Kaspar is happy." This is true. You know how I know he is happy? Because he has smiled at me this morning. And he does not do that very often, so I know you must look after him very well. There's a picture. Lots to take in this picture, so I'll hold it up for a while for you. Have a look. Horse. Monkey. Gosh, look how many baskets that man's carrying on his head. And there's Johnny Trot and the Countess. I was about to tell her all about Kaspar smiling at me the day before, but she was in full flow and I didn't dare interrupt her. "Because you make us both so happy, Johnny Trot, I wish to invite you to the Magic Flute to the opera at Covent Garden tomorrow evening. It is the first night. Will you come?" I was so taken aback that I did not even think to thank her. "Me?" I said. "Why not? You will sit in the best seat, dress circle. You are a guest of the Queen of the Night." "I'd really like to, Countess, honest I would, but I can't. I'll be working. I don't finish until 10 o'clock. "Don't worry, I fixed this already with the manager at the hotel," she said with an imperious wave of the hand. "I told him that you do not work tomorrow. You have the whole day off." "But you've got to be smart to go to the opera, Countess," I said. "I've seen all the grand gentlemen and ladies. I haven't got the right clothes." "I'll fix this too, Johnny Trot. You'll see, I'll fix everything." And so she did. She hired me a suit to wear, the first proper suit I ever put on. I could hardly believe it when I found myself the next day standing in front of her in the sitting room, all washed and brushed up while she adjusted my tie and collar. A picture. There he is. The Countess is putting his suit on. Sorry, a bit longer. I remember that I was looking up at her into her face, and all I wanted to do was call her mother and hug her tight and never let go. She frowned. "Why do you look at me like this, Johnny Trot?" she said. "I think maybe you have tears in your eyes. I like this. You're a boy with feeling, so you will be a man with a big heart. Mozart had a big heart, and he was the greatest man who ever lived. A little mad, maybe, but I think you have to be a little mad to be great. I love this man. I tell you something, Johnny Trot. I have no son. I have no husband. I have only Prince Kaspar in my music. But if I had a husband, he would be Mozart. And I say something else. If I had a son, I would want him to be like you. This is the truth. Now, Johnny Trot, I take your arm and you will walk me to the Covent Garden. Be proud, Johnny Trot. Walk like Kaspar, walk tall. You are a prince, like you are my son. This time, when Mr. Freddy saw me coming, and he raised his top hat, there was no mockery in it, only open-mouthed astonishment. The Savoy lobby fell silent in utter disbelief as we strode through. I felt about 10 feet tall, and that's how I continued to feel as we made our way up through Covent Garden Market through to the Royal Opera House. I should like to be able to say that I remember every moment, every note of the evening at the opera, but I do not. It passed in a blur of wonderment. I do, however, have a very clear memory of Countess Kandinsky as she made her first entrance as Queen of the Night. The rapturous applause at every aria she sang, and the standing ovation for her at the final curtain. In fact, I was so proud of her, so carried away by it all, that I stuck my fingers in my mouth and gave her the loudest, longest whistle that I could, ignoring the disapproving looks all around me. I knew full well that it was not the thing to do, but I just didn't care. I whistled again and again. I stood and clapped till my hands hurt, till the curtain closed for the last time. As we walked back to the hotel together later that night, I was so laden down with all the flowers that she had been given that I could scarcely see in front of me. Kaspar was waiting for us when we got back, yowling around us until I gave him some milk. The Countess went straight to the piano, her hat still on, and began to play softly. Look, here she is playing at the piano. And a cat on there as well. Meow, meow, meow. It's good. Nice pictures in this book. This I play every night after the opera before I go to bed. It is a lullaby by Mozart. It is beautiful, and Prince Kaspar likes it very much. As if to prove it, Kaspar leapt up onto the piano to listen. Johnny Trot, she went on, still playing, do you think they liked how I sang tonight? You must tell me the truth. Of course, I told her. Didn't you hear them? And you, Johnny Trot, do you like how I sing? I've never heard anything so wonderful, I said, and I meant it. She stopped playing and beckoned me over to the piano. She reached up and brushed the hair from my forehead. You go now, Johnny Trot. It is very late. The next day, Mr. Freddy and all the others on the servants' corridor teased me mercilessly. Who's a la-di-da lad then? They called after me. La-di-da. Whatever they said, I didn't mind. I was on cloud 9. During our walk to the park that morning, I told Kaspar all about my night at the opera, and how everyone there had taken the Countess to their hearts, and how she would be the talk of London, that he should be very proud of her. When no one was around, I even whistled him a snatch of a tune that I remembered, but this didn't seem to impress him. When we went back through the front door half an hour later, I was expecting more of the same banter, more ribbon. I was even looking forward to it, but as I came into the lobby, I noticed that everyone was behaving very strangely. They were averting their eyes, obviously not wanting to talk to me. I thought at first they must be angry with me. Mr. Freddy came over to me then and took me gently to one side, to offer me some advice, I thought, something he often did when I'd done something wrong. Best get this over with, Johnny, he began. It's the Countess. She was knocked down an hour or so ago just outside in the street. An omnibus it was. They say she walked straight out in front of it. Couldn't have seen it coming. We were all very fond of her, and you most of all. Almost like a mother she was to you, wasn't she? I'm sorry, Johnny. She was a very good lady, a fine lady, and a kind one too. Oh no, so it sounds like the Countess has been hit by a bus. Must have been one drawn by a horse and cart, judging by the... Anyway, hit by a bus, and she's died by the sounds of it. That's a bit sad. Prince Kaspar.